Hello, and welcome to our first episode of Across the Board. We're going to talk about some of the hottest topics happening in the sports world. I'm your host, Matt Cilbrith, and I'm here with my panel of WSIN sports analysts. Joining me here, we have Daniel Zumpano, a.k.a. DJ Z from Talking Sports with DJ Z. And next to him is Will Griffin from Real Sports Talk. On my right, we have Don Finkle from The Juice. And next to him is Lou Perricone, my co-host on Overtime Radio. The way this is going to work is I'm going to bring up the topic, and each of the analysts will have 30 seconds to take a side on the topic. And at the end, I will pick a person who I thought made the best point. Let's get right into it. We'll start with the NFL. We're almost halfway into the season so far, so I want to know who has been the biggest pleasant surprise of the year. We'll start with Dan on this one. Dan, who do you got as the biggest surprise so far?
Well, I think it's got to be Carolina. I think the Panthers have just shown an amazing group of talented yet young players that are being coached by a guy that obviously Riverboat Ron Rivera. How could you go wrong with a nickname like that? He has been excellent so far. Cam Newton has been outstanding all throughout the season, ripping teams apart with just Greg Olsen to throw to and Josh Norman on defense. He's been a diamond in the rough. Can't get much better than an undefeated Panthers team.
Well, Dan, that's an interesting point. I don't agree. I think it's the Oakland Raiders. I mean, I guess I understand they're 2-3, but they've looked a lot better since, they've been putrid for years now. They finally have a core. Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, Latavius Murray, and they're starting to get a little bit of a defense working. I know they have to work on the secondary, but I'm going to stick with the Raiders.
You're talking about a team with a lot of talent. I mean, the biggest surprise for me would be the Lions, a team with talent that's not playing up to their potential. They was in the playoffs. They almost beat some series. They should have beat the Cowboys, and they lose a tough game to the Seahawks. Now they're 1-5. Their offense is scoring like they should have been. The defense is not playing too great. They're playing well, but it looks like they're struggling without Sue. I think that was a big difference for them. So I would see the Lions.
I'm gonna have to. I like your guys' picks, but it's gonna have to be the Jets for me. They're quietly 4-1. They bring back Revis. They bring back Cromartie. They add Ivory and Marshall. Obviously, Chris Ivory is one of the better running backs in the league. Marshall's playing amazing football right now. 4 straight touchdown games, and everyone was, pumping up the Bills and the Dolphins before the season started. And then Geno went down, so really it didn't look good for the Jets. And now they're sitting at 4-1. They're getting ready to play the Patriots, and I think they have a chance.
One name you guys didn't bring up for me, it's got to be the Bengals. Andy Dalton looks great. That's personally my pick, but that's not what we're going to talk about now. But with the ups comes the downs. So obviously, there's the teams that are doing good and the teams that are doing bad. Who has been the biggest disappointment so far for you, Donnie? Who's the biggest disappointment that you think?
The biggest disappointment has definitely been the Indianapolis Colts. I understand they're still in first place in the division, but they just look awful to me. They made some seriously boneheaded signings in the offseason, getting Andre Johnson and Frank Gore, both past their time, and they didn't address their offensive line, so I don't think that Andrew Luck is going to make it through the entire season.
I would say the biggest you said disappointment, right? Mm-hmm. The biggest disappointment with me would be probably, I would say the Dolphins. The Dolphins, you look at it, they spend all this money on Sue. The defense is supposed to be coming back. They're supposed to be good. They got a good tight end. They got a whole bunch of young receivers. Everybody said this is the year of Tannehill. He made so many improvements last year. And where they're at now, they're not running the ball well. They're not passing the ball well. They did pick up their first win after firing Philbin. So we'll see how they go. But I think the Dolphins is a big surprise for me.
You guys are going to give me, some slack for this. I know they're undefeated, but the Broncos, their offense is just not getting it done. Peyton Manning's 39 years old now. He leads the league in interceptions with 10. C.J. Anderson is MIA. I don't think I need to say anything, more on the topic. Their offense is just not getting it done.
You guys got to be kidding me. There's only the worst disappointment in this league is without a doubt the Seattle Seahawks. It has to be. Their locker room is all topsy-turvy. You've got Marshawn Lynch's mom telling everybody over Twitter that he's not going to play. Are you kidding me? Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett got to argue over Black Lives Matter in the locker room like that matters. What about NFL matters? Play the game on the field. Their biggest problem is that they do not have Dan Quinn still there as their defensive coordinator. That's huge. Look at Atlanta right now, the way they've performed, and Dan Quinn is coaching a young, nice Atlanta Falcons defense, missing disappointment. A Seattle
But
defense. It's just no
But
communication.
let me remind you, they was 3-3 last year, and look where they ended up. They ended up at the Super Bowl.
But they're
so
back.
we've seen this story before.
But they're
I-
back.
they've
But this
seen
is a
this
team that was
story
in the
before.
Super Bowl.
They lost to Dallas
It's
at
not
home.
just, but
They
it's
lost
not
to
just,
Dallas at
it's
home.
not just the defense that the problem is. It's also the offense. Losing Max Unger, look at how bad their offensive line has played in recent weeks.
But they're-
and Jimmy Graham, where the heck is he? He's the biggest target on the field, and he has
That's on
been
the offensive
silent.
coordinator. They have the same offensive
Well,
coordinator.
there
as
you
last
go.
year.
It's
I'm gonna
really
cut you
the
guys
whole
up.
thing.
Lou, what do you have to say on that? You want to say something on the Seahawks?
Oh no, I agree. Jimmy Graham is non-existent, and honestly, if Peyton wasn't playing so bad and the Broncos were actually showing up, yeah, Seattle's probably the biggest disappointment because they should be playing much better when you add a weapon like Jimmy Graham,
But
and
Denver's
they don't use him.
undefeated.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah,
right
but it's
where we
only
thought
because
they
of the
would be.
defense. If it's
Right.
not for the defense,
Seattle's not
Peyton
playing any
Manning is
defense.
terrible.
That's
Seattle's
the
not
problem.
playing anything at
No,
all.
but Seattle's not playing defense in the fourth quarter. They're
That's-
playing good the first three
That's
quarters.
where the defense has to
mean,
play.
that's where the locker
You can't
room-
play
that's where the
defense
locker
for
room
3
comes
quarters
into it.
and then not play for the fourth.
you got to remember
Can't
they
do it.
haven't had a fourth quarter beast in Marshall Lynch, who's been out for the last 2 games, which is
Well,
a closer.
You have to win games in the fourth quarter in the NFL. There's no way around it. You've got to manage it. Now that we're through the NFL talk, out of biggest disappointment so far, I got to say I like Dan's point on the Seahawks. Obviously, you guys all chimed in. So Dan, I think you had the best disappointment, and the biggest surprise I think is the Jets. Really, the Jets look incredible. I got to agree. Chris Ivory is a stud running back so far. So give you the point for the disappointment. You the point for the biggest surprise, Lou. Getting off the NFL now, we're going to move into MLB. We are right in the middle. We are in the championship series of the MLB. So the question is, what has been the greatest storyline of this playoffs so far? Lou, I'm going to go to you first. What do you think the greatest story of this? There's with a great playoffs, there's been so many stories. What do you have as the best one?
I think the greatest story, honestly, it's got to be Daniel Murphy. And you guys can say what you want, but before the postseason started, who was Daniel Murphy? Were we even talking about him? He was just an average player. And really, we'd be surprised to see Daniel Murphy back on the team next year. But what have we seen since the postseason started? 6 home runs, 5 straight games with a home run, which ties Carlos Beltran. Is he Mr. October now? He could be.
Let's not go that far.
Mr.
That still
Murphtober.
holds. Yeah, Murphtober. That still holds Reggie.
All right, we're going to Will next for what do you think is the biggest, best storyline?
We always see in the playoffs, there's that one player in each sport. There's that one player that comes out of nowhere. I mean, the biggest, I would say, it would have to be the Cubs. I mean,
Yeah.
Nobody thought the Cubs would make it this far. Nobody figured it except for Back to Future, the movie. And they actually predicted them to go to the World Series, which I don't know if that's going to happen. But the fact that they made it this far, people doubted them. And just as Madden's first season with the team, and look how far he's gone.
Yeah, but Back to the Future also predicted them to play against Miami in the World Series. So
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to Donnie next. Donnie.
Well, I actually think that it's the NLCS matchup as a whole. I don't know that there's been many people that actually picked an NLCS of the Cubs and the Mets besides maybe our leader.
Besides this guy right here,
Yeah.
I did pick that.
I did pick the Mets to go to the World Series, but I honestly, like I said, it's a great storyline. 2 teams that haven't been there in a while, 2 fan bases that are starved for a postseason play. Now they're getting great postseason play. Well, the Mets are, but
I think that's a little bit of a cop-out, though. I think you got to do a little bit more detailed information
Detailed
as far as
information? What
a
would you
story. And it's, I agree with Lou. Lou is 100% right on this. I'm going to steal off. I don't care. Daniel Murphy is the story of the playoffs. 5 home runs, and look at the pictures of who he's doing it off of. Kershaw, Greinke, Lester,
yeah, but
Arrieta.
Schwarber's got 6 home runs.
But again, the same
if you want to
is
go
true.
that far,
So does
Schwarber's got
Murphy.
6 home runs.
How big
So
is
does
Schwarber's
Murphy.
impact on the Cubs right now?
Well, they're
down
in the
3-0.
They're in the NLCS.
Down 3-0.
though.
Where's Daniel Murphy's team? Up 3-0, 1 game away from the World Series.
They beat
I'm
the best
sorry.
team, but they beat
but
the
if
best team in baseball.
If you're talking
that was
about
arguable.
impact, I mean the Cubs is a bigger impact. I feel like on sports than Murphy is just in one person.
But Murphy has gotten them there to the point where
I'll
he
give you that.
single-handedly has
Murphy
won games.
single-handedly has, because there's been times where that Met offense has been non-existent. And I'm talking Yohan Cespedes, I'm talking David Wright, I'm talking Travis d'Arnaud, I'm talking all those guys.
And don't give me pitching either, because DeGrom and Harvey both struggled in starts against the Dodgers. They got into trouble, and yes, they got out of it, but Daniel Murphy was the key contributor for the Mets winning so far.
Now, the Daniel Murphy talk, I mean, to see this guy, usually, again, you said you see a breakout player every year, but to see a guy who is maybe a slightly above average player, a guy without a position for all that time to break out, is pretty incredible. I want to
seen
get
that in
you guys'
WWE.
topic on this. What do you guys think? Is he going to get signed this year? Lou, what do you think?
No, I don't
You think he
so.
gets signed?
They have too many other people to sign.
No, he won't get signed, unfortunately. Neither will Cespedes, because you got to lock up the big guns and the pitchers and Harvey and DeGrom. You got to do it.
All right. For that one, I got to go with Donnie, because not because he's praising my picks, which have been perfect so far this year, but it is, I agree. I mean, the NL Championship Series has been absolutely phenomenal with these two fan bases. You watch them go from New York to Chicago, and just the passion there, way better than watching, when the Dodgers series, you would have thought that it was the first, a spring training game in the atmosphere that was there. Sticking with the MLB postseason, we are going to go with, out of the 4 teams remaining, the Royals, Blue Jays, Mets, and the Cubs. What do you think is the biggest weapon that is left on any of these teams? Will, I'm going to start with you.
The best weapon, I would go with the Blue Jays. I mean, they led the league in home runs with Tulowitzki, Donaldson, and Batista. So with that type of firepower, I would go with them left in the postseason.
Donnie, what do you think?
I'm going to show my versatility here, and I'm going to pick Daniel Murphy. After I just argued against Murphy.
What are you doing?
Murph-tober. Okay, listen, guys. Like we talked about before, 5 home runs in 5 consecutive games. He is unconscious right now. He is exactly the reason why the Mets are in the position they're in right now. And it's not just his home runs. He's playing smart. He stole third base when there was nobody at third base because of the shift. Remember that, MLB? Shifts are stupid.
Don, that pond is all fished out, rather. It's time to talk about a team that's actually the only team that's been in the playoffs before, and it's the Kansas City Royals.
One time
I think
in 25 years.
They are the at least somewhat experienced team, as you would say. But I think that serves them well. You got guys that were there last year, Hosmer, Moustakas. You have a good bullpen out there with Wade Davis at the back end, Ventura. You got Johnny Cueto of all people. This team knows, and I know Cueto wasn't there last year, but this team knows what it takes to get there.
I'm going to have to go with the less experienced group who are actually playing the lights out right now, and it's the Mets pitching staff. Their average age is 25, so they're going to be there for a long time. And DeGrom, has 27 strikeouts in his first 3 postseason games. Okay? Think about that for a sec. That is the 4th most all-time in baseball history. This Mets pitching staff is killing it.
I mean, it's hard to not argue with any of those points. It's great, but I think I'm going to go with Dan again on this one. I do think a lot of people overlooking the Royals. There's a lot of tension on the NL Championship Series right now because those 2 teams is the lovable losers, if you will. The 2 teams battling
under the radar.
But I think the Royals, if you see what they did to the Blue Jays in the first 2 games, and I think that they're a lot better than I think a lot of people give them credit for. I know I let them slide under the radar, so I'm going to give that one to Dan. That's going to do it for the MLB playoff talk on this show, and we're almost out of time. But before we go, we got to get back into the football, but we're going to go to college. We are in the 2nd year of having college football playoffs, which I think is something that just about everybody had been waiting for, have a playoff system instead of just a computer basically picking who plays in the championship series. So we're going to go through, we're going to give our picks for our final 4 teams that make it in right now. I am going to go to Lou first. Lou, who do you have making your 4?
Well, as of right now, I mean, we have Ohio State, who looks good. They're making the switch to J.T. Barrett, who I think is only going to make their offense better. We have Baylor, whose offense is just on fire. They don't even need a defense. They're putting up so many points a game. I like LSU. I love Fournette. I really do. I can't lie. He's got to win the Heisman this year. And then for my last pick, I do like MSU, but we'll see. There's a bunch of other teams that we could go with for that last spot.
Will, what do you think?
I agree with some of them. I think Ohio State, obviously, I think they're going to run the table, so I don't think they have too much challenge besides Michigan at the end. I feel like it's probably going to be their biggest challenge, but I think Ohio State should be able to good, especially with switching to Barrett. I also think TCU is going to make it. Even though they don't have the best defense, I just feel like the scoring power, nobody can score with them. Boykin is probably 2nd behind Fournette if you're talking Heisman. He can run the ball, he can pass the ball, he can do it all. So I would definitely pick Boykin. 3rd, I think Alabama, even with 1 loss, is going to get in there. They're playing very well. After the loss to Ole Miss, they're running the ball. Henry, Drake. The defense is playing good, and they found the solution to their quarterback problems. I mean, Coger's not turning the ball over. They're playing good football, and that's all Nick Saban wants to do: just run the ball, and play good defense. And I think my 4th one would be, I would probably have to say, Probably Baylor too. Maybe Baylor might get it. You can see 2 Big 12 teams get it. So I would probably have to say
That
Baylor.
leads out of the question. Donnie, what do you think for year 4?
Obviously, I'm sticking with the trend here for Ohio State as my first pick. They're the defending champs. They're totally stacked in every single position. They're obviously going to be in it. TCU is my team that I think is actually going to win it all. I love TCU. I consider myself the resident college football expert of WSIN.
Wrong, but it's okay.
I think it's
We all make
mistakes.
We all make
I cover
mistakes.
college football for a living.
We all make mistakes.
You know, listen, like I said, TCU is just a monster in my opinion. They score so many points. I think the winner of the TCU Baylor game is going to get into the championship series. Obviously, I'm picking TCU. I also believe that Clemson's going to get in. I think Clemson is just stacked talent-wise. I think they're going to run through the ACC. And then I also think Utah's going to get into. I think there's going to be a Pac-12 team in there. And I think that Utah's going to run the table as well. So those are kind of my 4 picks for it now.
I like Utah. Dan, who's your?
Pac-12 is too unpredictable for me. You can't trust any team in that conference. Give me Ohio State, obviously. I think their only real test, will be at Michigan at the end of the year. They have Michigan State, but it's at home, so you got to trust them in that spot. Clemson, nobody's going to beat Clemson in the ACC. The ACC is just dead, and Florida State is not the same Florida State as they have been for the past couple of years. LSU has 3 big games at the end of the season. At Alabama, then they play Ole Miss and Texas A&M at the last 2 games of the year. I think they'll win 2 of those 3 games and beat Alabama. So give me the Tigers. And then for my last one, I think I'm going to go with TCU. I think TCU is the best team right now in the country, and they will beat Baylor, and Baylor will be left out again. TCU versus LSU for the national championship. TCU wins.
So we get 2 TCU winners. Now let me ask you this before we get into more. Before this past week when Michigan lost to Michigan State, if they were able to run the table, I do think they're going to give Ohio State a challenge at the end. Do you guys think Michigan, who has been unranked before this previous 2 weeks, do you think that Jim Harbaugh could have led Michigan to the Final Four playoffs in his first year?
Absolutely.
I think so. I wanted to see it.
There's no reason why.
Michigan fan first.
There's no reason why he shouldn't
have,
have, because if they win that game, their real tests are really Iowa and Ohio State, and that's it. You got to watch out for Iowa, and Notre Dame is not dead. They have Georgia, they have Stanford and Boston College on the road at the end of the year, but Notre Dame is not dead. If they can win out and maybe a couple teams lose, don't sleep on the Irish.
Okay, the college football expert. I want to know what your take on Michigan is.
I mean, if we're going to go put Michigan in the top 4, you might as well not sleep on Toledo either.
Nobody's putting Michigan in the top 4.
He asked.
I mean, because they lose a game to Michigan State where
they shouldn't
on the most insane
they shouldn't have lost.
Which they shouldn't have lost, but they still lost. And the team
We played the full game.
That's
why you play the full game. But what I'm trying to say is they lost to a team that I picked to get to the Final Four in Utah in the first game of the season. I will give you that. But I think if anything, it would just be the Harbaugh factor of Harbaugh brings in dollars, Harbaugh brings in ratings. Yeah. So that would be more of it than more just their play. I don't think that they would have gotten there this year. Maybe next year once he has a recruiting class under his belt, another one. But I think if anything, like I said,
I agree with Donnie. Michigan. I mean, I just feel like right now he doesn't have the talent he wants right now. Until he's able to recruit his own players, get his own players in his own system, then I think that's when you're going to really see him challenge get on that level of Ohio State. But I also would disagree with Dan's top 4. I just feel like, how can you say TCU can win with no defense? I feel like LSU, LSU still is iffy at quarterback. At the same time, this is the reason why I didn't put them in my top 4.
LSU doesn't have to throw the football to win games.
But they're going to have to when they play.
Run the football.
But when they play Alabama, they're going to have to throw the ball. And when they play Ole Miss in the defense, in the top 5 defense, Ole Miss. No. In the top 5 defense, against Ole Miss, they're going to have to throw the ball. So those top 3 games that you said, they're going to have passing is going to come in key.
Every single year we watch LSU Alabama, and every single year it is a 9-6 or 17-14 game. It's a defensive grudge match. You don't need to score that many points to win the game.
Exactly. And what happened in the national championship? A.J. McCarron outplayed the LSU quarterback when they won. But it's the same. They got the same defense.
But it's every single year is what the thing is. Okay. They scored 21 points in the game. That's not that much points.
Whichever quarterback makes more plays is going to win the game.
All right.
Fournette can win it by himself.
All right. I think we're running out of time here. I agree with what I want to get on what Will said, that Michigan, I mean, you're seeing what they could do in Harbaugh's system without his players. I mean, the defense, they hadn't let up a point over 2 games, the course of 2 games. 3 games. I mean, that's just unreal. But I'm also going to go with, I liked Will's picks the most. I agree with your Final Four. I like Baylor and TCU to make it. LSU looks great. I think, well, you didn't have LSU, but Bama. Bama, I think they're always in at the end. No. So if I'm tallying up my score sheet that I have here, it does go to Mr. DJZ as the winner of the total points. So we'll get a little FaceTime for DJZ. What do you have for your rant you want to riff on this?
My rant this week, and we could talk about a lot of things going on in sports and whatever, but I'm going to talk about one thing, and that is breast cancer awareness and the NFL's lack of responsibility when it comes to this. The NFL right now is putting a Ponzi scheme on their whole pink NFL merchandising. $11.25 out of every $100 that NFL earns from that merchandising goes to the American Cancer Society. Out of that, none of that actually goes to research. It all goes to mammograms. That is according to Vice. But the big thing is that they will not allow players to give nice tributes to their family members that have died or have had cancer before. Players, specifically on the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cameron Hayward, D'Angelo Williams. It's a shame and a Ponzi scheme. There's a great article in Market Watch today that came out. Go read it. It's a nice op-ed on how the NFL is screwing players and why they have such a nitpicky policy on all this uniform stuff. It's a great article. Go read it and support breast cancer this month, in the month of October.
All right, guys. I want to thank all you guys for being here on our first edition of Across the Board. That's going to do it for us this week. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at SCSUTV and subscribe to our YouTube page for any more Across the Board shows and all the rest of our programs that we offer here on SCSUTV. And we'll see you guys next time.